Orleans Saints as much as it's a place that Shedeur Sanders can go and prosper, a place that is ready for Shedeur Sanders, not only as a player, but a personality. And I think if I had to pick that place, it would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not so much just because of who Mike Tomlin is, not so much of just because of what they have as a roster structure, but because Shedeur Sanders needs to be somewhere that he's embraced. Shedeur Sanders needs to be somewhere where there is a sense of family. And anybody who has ever walked through the Pittsburgh Steelers facility understands the environments that the Rooneys have created. That's a place that's all about championships. It's not about how big can your personality be. It's not about how much of a brand you can build. It's about how do you help this organizations win another Lombardi trophy. I believe that takes pressure off of Shedeur. I believe you put him in a place where he won't be the biggest personality. And also you surround him with people that will do whatever they need to allow him to succeed as a player and a person. And that's the sort of environment, especially at Jackson State, especially at Colorado, that he's used to.
Everything he has ever done as he has gone to a program and he has lifted them to new heights. He did that at Jackson State, he did it at Colorado. I will say this. The news came out, and Adam Schefter broke it, that the Giants will be flying to Boulder, Colorado, and have a private workout with Shedeur on Thursday. This is not nothing. This is a team that sent 13 different people to his pro day a couple of weeks ago. They had a top 30 visit, and they had dinner and took him out in New Jersey. Joe Schoen himself has been to multiple Colorado games and went to a Colorado practice. I would not just dismiss this as window dressing 9 days from the draft, especially with the fact they have 150 to 200 prospects that they want to go through and build their big board, and yet multiple members of the Giants organization are flying to Boulder, Colorado to get another conversation and another private workout with Shedeur Sanders. All that said, gosh, I'm with Ryan Clark on this one. If you could pick an ideal spot and ego aside of slipping in the draft all the way to the 20s and what that might mean to not only Shedeur, but to the family that, hey, look, here is a guy that's being hyped up and in my mock draft as second or third overall pick, goes in the 20s to Pittsburgh. If you can swallow that pill, there is no better place for Shedeur Sanders than to go to Pittsburgh, and that is irrelevant of whether Aaron Rodgers is there or not. Pittsburgh is a stable organization, and he is not going to be asked to suddenly do it all on his shoulders. He is joining an organization, a franchise, a coach, and star players, and guys like T.J. Watt, and guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick, and of course guys like Cam Hayward, who are leaders in this league, where he can learn from and help take them to the next generation.
I don't disagree with anything that y'all said. Both of y'all would know this better than me. What I would say to you is that analysts questioning, whether it's the right fit due to his background and the shotgun-heavy offense at Jackson State and then ultimately Colorado. We all know what his life was like for him playing behind a weak offensive line his first year in Colorado. He almost got slaughtered, for crying out loud. It got to a point where Deion Sanders wasn't just a coach, but he was a daddy, needing to look out for his son because he was getting slaughtered. That's how weak the offensive line was the first go-round before it improved last season. I want to get to a bigger discussion, and I'm so glad that both of you are here, especially you, RC. I spoke to Peter about this yesterday. I'm going to bring this up again. I'm very uncomfortable with what has happened with Shedeur Sanders. I understand it's the NFL draft, and I understand things happen, and you evaluate, you scout, you see what you see. I get that part. We talked about Cam Ward. We went literally from talking about whether or not him or Cam Ward should be the number 1 overall pick, to Shedeur Sanders being a top 3 pick, to Shedeur Sanders possibly falling to number 6. Then we hear number 9 at New Orleans. Now we're talking about the Steelers at number 21. What the hell happened? Last time I checked, he ain't playing any games. Had a pro day that went pretty well. What did he do to drop? And see, I listened to you. I've listened to Prime speaking about this in the past. And of course, Louis Riddick speaking about this. And here's the thing that I want to use this as an opportunity to remind everybody. Primetime Deion Sanders might be the greatest athlete, clearly one of the greatest athletes that we've ever seen in history. Best cornerback ever. We got that part. You know what Ryan Clark and Louis Riddick and others raved about? all the bravado and all of this other stuff, the professionalism, the dedication, the excellence and commitment, all of these intangibles that supposedly we look for in any athlete, especially the quarterback. This brother seems to have it, and as the days progress, his stature or his status seems to dwindle. I find it inexplicable. I find it alarming, and I find it like almost insulting from the standpoint that this is Deion Sanders' son we're talking about here. We know he has imprints with his own son. He's coached him all his life, and we've seen how great he can be. And we know what Mike Tomlin brings to the table in terms of leadership and culture in Pittsburgh, and you just finished talking about the Rooneys, RC. I just want to give it to you, RC, and just explain to all of us, both of y'all, by the way, just explain what the hell is going on.
Well, listen, I think the first thing that happens is when the season ends, people haven't done their evaluations to the point that they have now. And what we knew when we watched college football last year was that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders were the top two quarterback prospects coming into this draft. Much like we knew years back that it was Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers, and Alex Smith goes #1 overall because he wins the battle of who's the top quarterback, and then we don't see Aaron Rodgers go into the mid-20s. I think the larger problem has become that if Shedeur Sanders falls to 9, that it's not 2 or it's not 1. Well, great quarterbacks and Hall of Fame quarterbacks are picked at 9. In Patrick Mahomes' case, they're picked at 10. In Ben Roethlisberger's case, they're picked at 11. In Aaron Rodgers' case, they're picked in the mid-20s. In Joe Montana's case, they're picked in the 3rd round. And so I don't necessarily believe that the chatter we are hearing about Shedeur Sanders maybe going here or maybe going there is in any way some sort of testament to him not being the player we assumed he was at the end of the season. Mel is making his mock because he's talking to people. Field is making his mock because he is talking to people. And it may be that Travis Hunter at 2 for Cleveland is the best player, that Abdul Carter at 3 for the New York Giants is the best player. That doesn't mean Shedeur Sanders isn't going to be really good. And if he falls to 9 and that's the New Orleans Saints, that's still a great place for Shedeur Sanders. Here's to me the difference between Shedeur and somebody like Jayden Daniels, who goes #2 last year behind Caleb Williams. Jayden Daniels had some things that you just cannot teach. And those things that you couldn't teach, you could touch. You could touch that when he got in the open field, he went for 250 yards against Florida. You can touch that this guy is pinpoint accurate and pushing the football down the field to 2 first-round wide receivers who we saw, even when they had the smallest crease, he understood where it could be. The things about Shedeur Sanders that make him great are the intangibles, right? The anticipation, the study, the professionalism. But none of those things wow you. So where he may not go to, he's still going to go 1st round. He's still going to go high. And let me be clear, if the Pittsburgh Steelers get him, I believe it's because they move up at some point, not because he falls to 21.
And I think it's a great point that, Drew Brees went in the 2nd